She said she loved me when I had nothing, but the moment I lost everything, she vanished like smoke. Now she's back, standing at the gate of my mansion, whispering my name like nothing ever happened. I still remember the night it all unraveled. It wasn't dramatic. No thunderstorm, no car crash, no cinematic chaos, just silence and the soft, cold click of a rejected bank transaction. I'd poured 3 years into my startup. Sleepless nights, missed birthdays, ramen dinners. I thought I was building something real. Investors had shown interest, the pitch deck was sharp, and my co-founder had promised things were lining up. But that morning he disappeared, vanished. Emails bounced back, our shared account emptied. I called him again, and again, nothing. By noon, I knew I was screwed. I sat on the floor of my tiny apartment, the one I had rented to save money. Rent was due, credit cards maxed. Savings? Burned in the chase of a dream that collapsed in a single morning. I stared at the wall, wondering how it all slipped through my fingers so fast. That evening, I tried to act normal when Claire came home, my girlfriend of 2 years. She worked late at a marketing firm and had always been patient with my hustle. I made her tea, tried to smile, but I think she could sense the tension in my voice. I couldn't bring myself to tell her everything, not yet. I told her we hit a rough patch. I needed time to figure things out. But time is cruel when you're broke. I spent the next few days scrambling, job boards, networking events, even odd jobs. I told myself it was just a setback, a chapter in the success story. I believed she'd stand by me. We'd eat cheap, laugh about it one day. Instead, I felt her pulling away. She stopped asking questions, started coming home later. Her smile grew shorter. One night she stood at the doorway with her arms crossed and said the words I'd never forget. "I can't keep waiting for you to become something." I didn't know it then, but those words were the first crack, not just in my heart, but in everything I thought we had. She didn't leave that night, not physically, but something in her was already gone. Her presence felt like a shadow, there but cold, distant, untouchable. The next few weeks passed in a blur. I was hustling harder than ever, trying to find anything to keep us afloat. I picked up freelance gigs that paid pennies, delivered food at night, and spent the early mornings applying to every job I could find. I barely slept. I barely ate. I was running on desperation and the belief that if I could just fix things, she'd stay. But no matter what I did, she kept slipping further away. We stopped talking about the future. She stopped calling me babe. She no longer asked how my day was. And one evening, after I got home soaked in rain from another delivery shift, I found her packing a bag. "Where are you going?" I asked, my voice already shaking. "To my sister S," she said flatly, "just for a while." A knot twisted in my stomach. "We can get through this," I told her. "I'm trying, Claire, I really am." She didn't look at me right away, just kept folding clothes into the suitcase like she was packing away the last pieces of us. Finally, she stopped and said softly but firmly, "I feel like I'm stuck, like I'm tied to someone who's drowning, and I can't keep sinking just because you haven't figured your life out." Her words stung more than I expected. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I just stood there as she zipped her bag and walked to the door. "I loved you," she said without turning around, "but love doesn't pay the bills." And with that, she left. The apartment felt like a vacuum when the door shut. No footsteps, no keys jingling, no Claire, just silence and me. A broke, exhausted man with nothing but a broken dream and an empty room. That night I sat in the dark and realized something. No one was coming to save me. Not her, not my old partner, not anyone. If I wanted to get out of this hole, I had to do it alone. A week after Claire left, I got the eviction notice. I'd already missed 2 months of rent. My landlord was an old guy who tried to be patient, but patience doesn't pay mortgages. I begged for more time, promised him I was working on it, but he just sighed and said, "I've heard that before." I didn't have the energy to argue. Honestly, I was too numb to care. I packed what little I had into 2 duffel bags. My laptop, a few clothes, a photo of my mom gone years ago, but still the only person who ever made me feel seen. I didn't even bother folding the shirts. What was the point? For the next few nights, I slept in my car. It was a beat-up old Civic, barely running, but it gave me shelter. I parked in quiet neighborhoods, keeping the seat reclined so no one would notice me. I showered at a gym using a free trial pass. I ate dollar menu burgers and saved every coin I could. The silence at night hit hardest. That was when the thoughts came, loud, cruel, relentless. I replayed every decision that led me here. Maybe I shouldn't have trusted my co-founder. Maybe I should have taken that boring but stable job offer a year ago. Maybe I should have seen the signs with Claire. Maybe I just wasn't enough. Some nights I cried without shame. Other nights I just stared at the ceiling of the car, hollowed out and disconnected from everything I used to be. And yet somewhere deep in that rock bottom, something strange started to happen. I stopped waiting. I stopped waiting for a call from Claire, stopped waiting for an apology from my co-founder, stopped waiting for someone to offer me a lifeline. One morning I looked at myself in the side mirror. I barely recognized the guy staring back, eyes sunken, beard patchy, skin pale. But beneath that I saw a flicker, a thread of fight, a whisper that said, "This can't be the end." That was the day I opened my laptop in a fast food joint and typed in one search: how to start over when you have nothing. That search, how to start over when you have nothing, led me down a rabbit hole of videos, articles, and forums. Most of it felt like recycled fluff, but one story stuck with me. A guy who'd been homeless started freelancing online and built a six-figure business from a library computer. It sounded impossible, but impossible was already my daily reality, so why not try? I still had my old laptop and the free Wi-Fi from the fast food place became my office. I started small, really small. I took online courses, most of them free or with trial periods. Graphic design, copywriting, basic coding, whatever I could get my hands on. I didn't know where it would lead, but I told myself I had to learn something useful. Every night I watched tutorials. Every morning I applied to freelance gigs. I'd send out 50 proposals just to get one reply. Most jobs paid barely enough for gas or a sandwich, but I took them all. Logo design for a pet groomer. Blog post for a travel site. Social media captions for someone's candle business. I did the work, no complaints, and I poured everything into making each job better than expected. The first time I earned $100 in a single week, I nearly cried. I remember walking out of the fast food place that day and just standing in the parking lot under the sun, breathing. It wasn't much. It wouldn't get me out of the car. But for the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Hope. I wasn't just surviving. I was moving, slowly, painfully, but forward. And in those quiet hours between gigs and courses, I started dreaming again. What if I didn't stop at freelancing? What if I built something bigger? An agency, a brand, something that couldn't be taken away from me like before? That seed planted itself deep inside me, not because I wanted revenge, not even because I wanted success, but because I wanted to prove to myself that I wasn't finished. Not yet. The days started to blend together. Early mornings, late nights, coffee instead of meals, Wi-Fi passwords scribbled on napkins. Every hour I wasn't eating or sleeping, I was working. And even when I did sleep, I dreamt of work. It wasn't glamorous. There were no viral moments, no overnight success, no big break. Just relentless hustle. I upgraded from sleeping in my car to crashing on a friend's couch. He didn't ask many questions, just handed me a spare key and a pillow. That kindness meant the world to me. I promised myself I wouldn't overstay, that I'd earn my way back to a life with dignity. My laptop became my lifeline. I built a portfolio piece by piece. Every project I completed, I turned into proof that I could do this. I created a simple website, started posting content, shared tips from what I was learning. Bit by bit, people started noticing. Clients returned, they referred others. I raised my rates slowly. The work never stopped. Some nights I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. I missed meals, I missed birthdays, I missed silence, but I kept going. No one saw the grind. Not the rejection emails, not the failed pitches, not the nights I questioned if I was just lying to myself. But I pushed through, driven by something deeper than pride. I wanted to matter again. There were moments I wanted to quit, days when the imposter syndrome crushed me. I'd remember Claire's voice, "I can't keep waiting for you to become something." Those words cut deep, but they also fueled me. I wasn't doing this for her anymore, but I was going to become something for me. Eventually, the money started to grow. I could afford a tiny studio apartment. It was barely big enough for a bed and desk, but it was mine. I paid rent with my own money, cooked my own food, slept on my own mattress. That first night in that little apartment, I sat on the floor and smiled, not because I had made it, but because I was finally standing on my own 2 feet again. And I knew, deep down, I was just getting started. Success didn't come crashing through the door. It came like a whisper, soft, steady, and almost hard to believe at first. I remember landing my first $1,000 client. I refreshed my inbox 3 times just to make sure I wasn't imagining it. That one job paid more than an entire month of hustling had just 6 months ago. I didn't celebrate loudly. I didn't post about it online. I just stared at the email, then sat back in my chair and let myself breathe. Things picked up after that. Word spread. My clients started introducing me as the guy who always delivers. I hired a virtual assistant to help with admin work. Then I brought on a junior designer to lighten the load. Before I knew it, I wasn't just freelancing anymore. I was running a real business. People started asking for advice. They saw the polished website, the clean branding, the steady growth. But they didn't see the mess behind it, the endless hours, the fear, the doubt, the failed attempts. They didn't know about the nights I cried in my car or the meals I skipped just to keep the Wi-Fi on. I never forgot those nights. In fact, I clung to them. They kept me grounded when opportunities started to pour in, speaking gigs, collaborations, even an offer to buy out part of my business. I turned most of it down. I wasn't doing this for fame or fast money. I was building something real, something mine. And then it happened. I bought my first home, a modest condo, but it felt like a castle. I had a key that didn't come with judgment, a space that didn't carry someone else's timeline or expectations, just 4 walls paid for with my own sweat. I didn't tell Claire. I didn't even think about her much, to be honest. I had moved on, or so I believed. I was too focused on the present, on building, on becoming the man I used to lie awake at night dreaming I could be. But success has a way of drawing people back. And soon, I'd realized that not everyone from your past stays in the past forever. I once read that when you're at your lowest, no one hears a thing. But when you rise, the world suddenly remembers your name. I didn't fully understand that until my phone started ringing again. Old acquaintances who'd ghosted me during the hard times were now sliding into my inbox, dropping messages like, "Hey, man, proud of you," or "We should catch up sometime." People who had once dodged my calls were now asking for advice, partnerships, even jobs. I smiled at the irony. They weren't evil. They were just like most people, comfortable with your success, uncomfortable with your struggle. But the real shock came when I saw her name pop up. Claire. At first I thought it was spam. I hadn't heard from her in over a year. But there it was, her name, her number, a simple text. "Hey, I heard about what you've built. I'm really happy for you. Would love to catch up if you're open to it." I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't know what I felt: anger, pity, nostalgia. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Another part just wanted to hear her voice, if only to understand why she left so easily. Maybe closure, maybe something else. I didn't reply right away. I buried myself in work for a few days, hoping the feelings would fade. But then she called. I let it ring. Then she called again. Finally, I picked up. "Hello," I said quietly. There was silence on the other end for a second, then her voice. Soft, familiar, hesitant. "Hey, it's me." Hearing her again brought back a wave of memories I wasn't ready for. Our late-night talks, her laugh, the look in her eyes the night she walked out. "I didn't expect you to answer," she said. I saw your name on LinkedIn and, well, I didn't know who else to talk to." Something in her voice was different. She didn't sound proud or distant. She sounded small, nervous. I didn't know why yet, but it felt like the story between us wasn't over. Not even close. I agreed to meet her. Not because I had feelings left, not really, but because something inside me needed to face her. Not the version I held onto in memories, but the real her as she was now. We met at a quiet coffee shop, one I used to bring her to when things were still good. I got there early and sat by the window. My heart wasn't racing, but it wasn't calm either. I didn't know what to expect. Closure, apology, or maybe just more questions. She walked in wearing a coat that looked too big for her. Her face was thinner, eyes tired. But when she saw me, she smiled, soft and uncertain, like someone returning to a home they no longer belonged to. "Hey," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. "Hey," I replied. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she looked down at her coffee cup and whispered, "You look good, really good." "Thanks," I said. "It's been a long road." She nodded slowly. Her eyes glassed over and then, like a dam breaking, tears welled up and rolled down her cheeks. She covered her face with one hand, trying to hide it, but it was too late. I'm sorry, she said, her voice shaking. I know I don't deserve to cry in front of you, but I messed up. I thought walking away would fix everything for me. I thought I was doing what I needed to do. I didn't interrupt her. She kept going. I lost my job 6 months ago. The guy I left you for turned out to be not who I thought he was. I moved back in with my parents. And then I saw you on the news, your story, your business, your success. And I couldn't stop thinking about what we had, what I gave up. Her voice cracked. I didn't think you'd actually make it. Not because I didn't believe in you, I think I just didn't believe in myself enough to wait. I looked at her, and for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel bitterness. I felt peace. But peace doesn't mean going backward. There was a time when I would have done anything to have her sit across from me again. Back when I was living in my car, I used to replay conversations in my head, wondering what I could have said to make her stay. But sitting there now, watching her wipe tears from her eyes, I felt something I didn't expect. Nothing. No anger, no pain, no longing, just nothing. I don't hate you, I said quietly. She looked up, surprised. You do. I shook my head. I did, for a while, not just because you left, but because you gave up on me so easily. You didn't even wait to see if I could rise. She blinked fast, her lips trembling. I didn't know how to stay. I know, I replied, but I needed someone who would. She nodded slowly. Do you think we could ever try again? The words hit the table like a stone. I stared at her, remembering all the nights I cried over her, all the pain I carried, how hard I worked to build a life from the ruins she walked out of. She was looking at me like I was her way out now, like I was the safe harbor she abandoned and suddenly needed back. But I wasn't that man anymore. I've changed, I said. Not just my life, me, and I think you're still trying to figure out who you are. Getting back together would only hurt us both. Her face fell. She wasn't expecting rejection, not from me. For a moment, I saw the flicker of disbelief in her eyes, like she couldn't understand how the man she once left behind now had the power to say no. I hope you find what you're looking for, I said, rising from the table. She reached out just for a second, her fingers barely brushing mine. I'm proud of you, she whispered, even if I didn't stay long enough to see it happen. I gave her a small nod and walked away, leaving behind not just her, but every piece of the man I used to be. Because now I had everything. And I finally understood that not all second chances are meant to be taken. Weeks passed after that coffee shop meeting. I assumed it was over. Whatever had tied us together finally cut loose. I moved forward, sharper, clearer. My business kept growing. I bought a new home, a modern mansion nestled in the hills with wide glass windows and a view that stretched for miles. To most people, it looked like I had everything, and in a way, I did. But what really mattered wasn't the house or the money or the success. It was peace, the kind that isn't loud, the kind that comes when you finally let go. Then one evening, just as the sun dipped below the horizon, the doorbell rang. I was reviewing client contracts in my home office when the chime echoed through the hall. I walked to the door, expecting a delivery or a neighbor, but when I opened it, I froze. Claire. She looked exhausted, her eyes puffy, her hair tied back like she hadn't slept in days. She wasn't dressed for drama, no makeup, no performance, just a woman who had run out of pride. I'm sorry to show up like this, she said, voice trembling. I didn't know where else to go. I stayed silent, not cold, just calm. I lost everything, she continued. I've been trying to rebuild, but nothing's working. I feel like I'm drowning, and I keep thinking maybe if I had stayed, things would have been different. There was desperation in her voice, not for love, but for rescue. And I realized in that moment that she was standing in front of the version of me she once didn't believe in, hoping now that I could save her. I wish things had gone differently too, I said gently. But this door, it only opens to people who walked with me when it was just dust and dreams. She looked away, biting her lip. Tears fell, but I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt compassion, the kind that says I've healed, but I won't be broken again. I stepped back, nodded once, and softly closed the door. Behind me was everything I had built with my own hands. In front of me was a woman from my past, still searching for her future. But me. I was already gone.